Welcome back to Joygasm, a video game and movie podcast. I'm Russ. He is Steve, and we both would love to wish you a happy new year in episode 256 today, January 7th, 2022. We are going to be focusing on our favorite games of 2021, which is, in fact, the topic of the day. If you have seen this before, then this will sound familiar to you. If you have not seen it, then what we typically do at the end of each and every year is we list independently our top 5 favorite games of 2021. Or in this case, 2021. Basically the previous year. So
last year. As in a few days ago.
Yes, indeed. And what's nice about it is that we decide, just to keep things simple, that we start at our number 5 and work our way up to number 1. And we just kind of go back and forth, a little, back and forth, round robin style.
So what if, Russ, I have a game on my list that you also have on your list?
Well, then I will also talk about said game once I get to that game on my list, because I have a feeling.
Fair enough.
There will be a number of the same titles on the list. I do wonder, if we have ever had a favorite games of fill in the blank year where we both had the exact same games. I don't think we have. I think there's been certain ones that have been different.
Yeah, well, I think most years, Russ, we have very similar games, just out of sequence, or different sequence.
Out of sequence,
I would say.
Sure.
But there is, a couple here and there that are different on my list than your list,
which would make mine a couple different on my list from his list.
So, you want to begin?
I would love to begin. Would you like to go first?
You know what we should do?
What should we do, Steve?
We should, probably not. I was going to say, we should have a runners-up episode. What games didn't make the cut, but were almost there.
But technically speaking, if those games were not listed during our top 5 favorite games, wouldn't they automatically know?
Yeah. They would, Russ, but they wouldn't know that we were actually considering those games.
Every game is under consideration.
No, just the ones we've played, Russ. Not every game.
Well, actually, and that brings up our annual disclaimer, which is that the way that we do this is based off of the games that we have actually played in the previous year.
Yeah.
We have not played each and every single game that has been released. Therefore, it is not the same as say an IGN or GameSpot, when they do their games of the year kind of thing.
People who are actually paid to play games on a regular basis.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they've played each game in every game, and so they have a bit more of an official this is our criteria and this is how we feel it is. For us, it's more of a personal taste thing. It's more of okay, based on the games we've actually played.
Right.
This is what
no one's given us games for free to play.
No. But if they want to,
we're open to it.
Yeah. Maybe then your game might be in the top 5 of our favorites. Steve, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with your number 5 favorite game of 2021?
Russ, this game might cause a little disturbance with you.
A little controversy?
And that's okay. My 5th and 4th were kind of mono-y-mono.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, I know. So my 5th game, Russ, starting at number 5.
Number 5, numero 5.
is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy, the game. And why is that, Steve?
Well, Russ, so I didn't get that far in the game, honestly, because pretty much a ton of other stuff was coming out. I only had so much more time.
Why am I not surprised?
But I'll tell you, my experience with movie to game ports, it's basically sucked, Russ. oftentimes sucked.
Yes.
This one did not suck. It's probably one of the most, if not the most successful movie to game port. And I started playing thinking, well, no one's going to replace the actors from the movie Guardians of the Galaxy. So everything else is just going to be second best. And if it's like second best, it's like first to last sort of thing. You know, it's like, it's never going to be this that good. You know, and it got me into thinking like, you know, same thing with like the Square Avengers game. How terrible was that? You know what I mean, Russ?
Well, I mean, the Avengers game I wouldn't categorize it as terrible. I would categorize it as
that's
disappointing.
I would categorize it as terrible.
Okay.
Russ.
Okay.
And it's my fifth game that I'm comparing, and it's on my list.
Okay.
So, anyhow, you pick up the game, you play it, and you're interested. You're instantly. Shut up. You're instantly like drawn into it.
I didn't say anything.
You're instantly drawn into it, like with with the mom right there, and with the rock music playing, like he's getting drawn into. I mean, you're instantly transported, unplugged from world number one, plugged into video game world of Guardians of the Galaxy, and then from there, it's like that whole beginning sequence.
Yeah,
is like freaking gaming nirvana.
Yeah.
Russ, especially with the spaceship scene. And all the personalities are like accurately represented.
Yeah.
And so I felt as though I fell in love all over again with these characters. I have not beaten the game yet.
How far would you say you are?
So I don't know. I'm on a planet. I don't know, Russ. So I found some secret stuff and I'm on a planet. And I've upgraded my characters a little bit. I'm against like these baddies that kind of just start to like repopulate themselves, and they're coming out of nowhere and they're kind of flapping around, and I don't know.
You're still at the beginning, aren't you, Steve?
I'm not that far, Russ, but
I am
further. I'm not exactly in the beginning. But the reason it's at number 5 too and not at number 4 is that I just didn't feel like, I can't wait to come home and play that game. It's like I wanted there to be a bit more, even though you have to upgrade your stuff to actually be like totally tubular.
Right.
It's too basic in the beginning. I feel like I just have these little pea shooters, pew, 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 and it's just not very like the gameplay isn't very like drawing me in as far as like the non like airship, spaceship combat kind of stuff. It doesn't feel like that cool.
Sure.
Until you upgrade. But I'm not there yet. That's my number 5, Russ.
Number 5 from Steve. Well, my number 5.
Here we go.
My number 5 pick.
You
for favorite game of 2021.
Tell us, Russ. I'm going to pick out this hang now while you tell us.
Deathloop.
I knew it.
Deathloop is my number 5.
I knew it.
It's by Arcane Studios. Deathloop is a game that takes somewhat of kind of like a familiar formula with some of the other games that they've done in the past, and they've applied it into this new type of world, which works really, really well. So having like the very strong art direction that takes place in the 60s, I'm always a big fan of like when a game kind of makes an emphasis on a particular period and does it successfully. Yeah. I really, really enjoyed the look of it. It's a very hip game. I really enjoyed the Groundhog Day mechanic that they have in there. Now, I have not beaten this game.
Oh, really?
But I am about, I would say, halfway through the game itself. And that was actually one of the reasons why it made it to my number 5 like standing as opposed to being any higher, was that one of the things that I found to be a little bit of a challenge was, at least early on, the game is intentionally obtuse in terms of its storytelling. So like you're not exactly sure what's going on. You love the dialogue, love the banter between Colt and Juliana. That whole thing is a lot of fun.
Yes, Russ.
But when it comes to just how you're supposed to exist in this world. How are you supposed to survive? What exactly are you up to? It was a bit foggy for me. And so that, as a result, it caused me not to like feel, at least initially, as interested in wanting to pick up the game all the time.
Yeah.
The farther, quit bumping my bike. You stay on your side. Stay over there.
Flicked my eyebrow.
So the further I got into the game, then the more I began to understand exactly like, okay, how everything works, what the purpose of Colt being there is. And that's when I started to get more and more immersed into this world, which, by the way, is a blast. It is super fun to be able to see all these different cronies that work with Juliana. You know, I would say, especially if you think of like a hierarchy tree, you have kind of like these different types of baddies with different specialties and whatnot as you make your way up. It's very, very fun. And I don't know, like the characters themselves are super original. And I look forward to actually, you know, getting to the end of the game. I think it's going to get more and more fun. One of the things that I did read about a little while back was how they made a patch update that they released. Are you okay over there? You seem like you're
sucked in a little dust or something.
You're a little gassy over there.
No, I'm gassy.
You okay?
You know, sucking out dust. I don't know what it is.
Well, anyway, one of the things,
maybe in that eyebrow you flicked off my head, it got caught in my throat when I was breathing. Who knows?
I'm like trying to focus on talking about Deathloop, and he's over there like just. You know what? You just keep talking. I'll be right back. You remind me of that one character from Men in Black, like the alien that was in like the guy's body. He's just like. I gotta put my hand. Got my hand. Okay. Anyway, what I was going to say was...
Right, yeah, sorry about that.
The new update that came out not too long ago, it's pretty recent actually. It addressed some of the issues that I know you and I talked about. For instance, like the UI was a bit overwhelming. If you recall, like within all the different menus, you're like, my goodness, there's a lot here, which is cool in the sense that there's a lot to like about like what all isn't included with the game. But at the same time, I was a little overwhelmed, a little kind of, dare I say,
sensitive?
Not sensitive, but like apprehensive about, okay, how exactly am I supposed to navigate and leverage the different things about these menus? Well, they have, you know, they've gone through that. They also have improved the AI, which was something that, if you recall, you were commenting on about how you were surprised, like you would make a bunch of noise, you'd fire your weapons, and how there would be baddies that would be like 50 feet away that like miraculously wouldn't hear your gunshots. And you're like, why aren't they turning around? Apparently they've addressed stuff like that. So I, for one, am very much looking forward to being able to continue my adventures through that game. And that is what my number 5 pick is.
Fan-freaking-tastic, Russ.
What is your number 4 pick for 2021, Steve?
2021 number 4, Russ, would be Far Cry 6.
Far Cry 6.
Now, Far Cry 6, Russ. Okay, so it's not exactly Far Cry 3, but they're taking things better than where they were in like Far Cry 5 and whatever Primal and whatever else they had. It's like almost those games almost didn't exist. So it's good to be back on the island, if you will. You know, the island, and you're trying to make do with whatever scraps you have. Customizing weapons, try to override tyranny, Russ. Viva Libertad!
And what better place to do that than on a tropical island?
That's right, Russ.
Tropical paradise.
That's right, Russ. So, but yeah, no, I thought the sound was cool with all the guns. The gunplay was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful game to look at. I loved all the Cuban music that was played. But the voice acting was all good. So the reason why I was saying earlier about this was tied from like my 4 and my 5 was that I thought the story was better in Guardians, and the story is still good here, but why this one kind of eked ahead a little bit is because the game was more fun to play, I guess. The sound and the gunplay really drew me in.
Yep.
The thing where it fell a little flat, why it's not rated higher, is that I thought they had great voice talent for the characters, but they didn't have enough screen time and like original things happening in the story. And so a lot of the characters, you'd be like, okay, yeah, here's somebody new, but keep doing the same as you did in this other chapter. Okay, now chapter 3, here's some new characters that are kind of on the screen, something, but they're not going to do anything with you. Keep doing the same tasks you did in the previous chapter.
Did you end up beating that game?
Yes.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you, Russ. And so towards the end, you get like all these ton of upgrades. Like, kind of like they thought of like, oh man, we've got to do all this stuff. We got to throw it in there last minute because the game's going to release and whatever. So I kind of wish the game was a little bit longer, a bit more original, but still, it drew me in. I had a great time. I was thinking about it off and on the game. And one thing I'm hoping for, they have like this DLC. I haven't got it yet, but apparently there's going to be Far Cry 3 and 4 kind of type style missions you can download. So I'm kind of hoping they're going to use the new engine for that stuff. I haven't got it yet, but anyway, definitely a step in the right direction. Excellent. I had fun with it. I'm hoping they'll release more like this. Maybe not so much on the cussing and the swearing. I kind of would like a little bit better, script writing, especially when they have some major voice talent to on their payroll. So, anyway, Russ, that's my numero quattro.
Excellent. Well, my number 4 is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. How do you know that was my number 4?
I walked in here and I'm like, you know what?
Did you walk in here or did you sashay in here?
I thought I knew Ratchet and Clank and what was your other one? I knew your 4 and your 5 were going to be like the same, Russ. Move on, right? Tell us about Ratchet and Clank, right? I
don't believe that for a second.
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, I just know you're right. You're my brother. I know you. I should love you now.
So, yes, my number 4 for 2021 is in fact Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This was the very first outing I've had with the series. I've seen over the years countless commercials for it. I've heard friends talk about the game itself, and I've really had an interest in checking it out. I just never got around to playing it.
Nice.
So this was my first foray into the game. I feel as though this was probably like my perfect time to go into it. I remember seeing them demo the game at E3 and how like I was really just taken with how much the game looked like a true next gen title experience. It looks like a Pixar movie come to life. That was always a big plus in my book. I really love the characters in this game. And it shouldn't be any kind of surprise. I was looking up some of the previous artwork and whatnot for the series itself. They have incredibly strong art direction when it comes to this. And it's so fun to be able to see not only the protagonists, the heroes of the story, but also the villains are just hilarious. They're super fun to battle against. And speaking of battling, all of the different weapons, even though the weapons themselves, apparently most of the weapons are the same from like previous outings of Ratchet and Clank. They do have a couple of new ones.
Sure.
But for someone who's a newbie like myself, I really enjoyed this this type of gameplay mechanic that so many other people were enjoying for decades, apparently.
Nice.
Now, hello, Steven's throat.
Right. I tried to keep it quiet. It's not happening.
What I also really enjoyed was this new gameplay mechanic of the Rift itself. So like if you were playing the game and you'd see some sort of other dimensional portal that existed within the environment, you could then utilize this special type of interaction where you could then draw yourself toward those particular portals. And then going through that, you'd either go to a completely new world or you'd go into like an alternate dimensional state, whatever it is. Really, really fun. And the environments were creative. I mean, I think this is probably one of the most, think of it in terms of like if you had your Pixar hat on, like there are so many different creative nuances and subtleties and attention to detail in this game that really make for a gleeful time playing the game. It was super fun. The voiceover acting was really great as well. I bought into everything that was going on. And again, it was super fun. I ended up beating the game. I'm currently making my way through New Game Plus because I actually did not get a chance to unlock and upgrade every single weapon because they have quite a few in there. So I'm going through and doing that. But and actually, when I finally am able to get a 4K TV, I'm going to be enjoying this game even more because I was enjoying it on a 1080p. So if it looks that good on 1080p. It's gonna be a crispy thing of beauty on 4K.
Stop talking about it and just get one.
Well, Steve, I'm broke.
Oh man, broke schmoke, Russ.
Maybe I'm telling you, maybe 2022 is the year I finally am able to get the necessary upgrade.
Magical year, Russ. It's gonna be good.
We'll have to see. Steve, what is your number 3 pick for your favorite game of 2021?
Number 3, Russ, is going to be Forza.
Forza. Wow.
What?
I had no idea you were going to choose Forza as your number 3.
You thought I would be higher, Russ?
I did.
Okay. Well, I did struggle a bit. So here's the deal with Forza. Playing Forza Horizon 4, I thought, you guys can definitely do better. It felt like Forza was like, okay, here's like Forza Horizon 3, but in like a different canvas. But I felt like they just didn't do enough to make the game that much better. Forza Horizon 3 is like this, it's so good. It's just so nice. And then when Forza Horizon 5 came out.
Wait, are you talking about Forza Horizon 4 was so good? Or are you talking about Forza Horizon 3?
Forza Horizon 3 was good. When 4 came out, I didn't feel like it was like a worthy successor.
Oh. Wait,
what? I felt like it Forza 4, when it came out, it was fine, but it wasn't like...
That's the one where it takes place in Britain. Okay, go ahead.
But that's the one... Forza Horizon 3 was so much better, in my opinion. Just the venue that was chosen and everywhere you would go, like if you were in the snow, it was like crazy blizzard snow. If you were like on the Hot Wheels track, it's everything they did with 3 was awesome. And 4, it was cool, but it didn't seem like it was a better game. And then 5 came out and it definitely feels like it's a better game. So not only with like the opening sequence coming out, it's just absolutely beautiful. It looks like they maximized the base Xbox One system as far as what the capabilities they could do with sound, with graphics, with everything. And yes, I had to wait longer for the loading time, but they rewarded me for it at the same time. And when I was customizing cars, I would spend all this time thinking, okay, this is the way I want it to sound. I don't care almost like, performance. There's a ton of other cars that are going to be faster and more less like high performance.
Yeah.
But I want my car to sound a certain way. And I would just spend hours just modifying the car to make it sound the way I wanted to sound. And to me, that was fun. I didn't get that in Forza Horizon 3 and I didn't get it in Forza Horizon 4.
Sure.
And they changed like the operations of the cars a bit more too. So it actually felt like I had body roll when I was turning. And I friggin' loved it. I just fell in love. But so it didn't make 4, and I am struggling with it, but it didn't make 4 because, number.
There's all these numbers.
I can't do it anymore. It wasn't higher on the list. Let me put it that way, Russ. It wasn't higher on the list because, when the races just weren't that much different, I guess. I still love playing the game, but I felt my first pick and second pick on my list, Russ, for places 2 and 1, drew me more to the game. I'll get to those in a bit, Russ, but that's my number 3.
Number 3. Well, color me surprised because I had a feeling it would either be your number 1 or number 2 pick.
Interesting, Russ.
So, I'm getting a little Twitter painted over here. A little excited about the unknown.
Okay.
My number 3 pick for 2021 is Guardians of the Galaxy, the game.
Okay.
I went through this game and beat it. I'm currently actually also on another romp through this action-adventure title under the New Game Plus mode. But what I find to be so impressive about this game is that there was no hype whatsoever when they were working on this game. It was like we were watching E3 and then Square Enix out of nowhere, like, specifically Eidos Montreal, popped out of the woodwork and just said, oh yeah, we've been working on this Guardians of the Galaxy game. And we're like, what? This is crazy. And they showed something like a 20-minute long gameplay trailer. It wasn't even a trailer. It was just like here's like a 20-minute long gameplay video.
Sure.
And so we were both really struck by that. We're like, wow, well, this is like a nice little Easter egg of sorts, right? Like
Sure.
we had no idea that this was on the docket. And so it was super cool to be able to actually sit down with the game. And one of the concerns I had, which we talk about quite a bit, and just to briefly recap, is that anytime that you have a game that's based off a IP consisting of characters that are from the movies, you're going to run into a bit of a creative challenge simply because, like in Guardians of the Galaxy's case, folks have been going to the theater and enjoying the Chris Pratt version, right? Of the Guardians of the Galaxy, as well as all the other actors that comprise the various characters. So how on earth can you make a game that can stand essentially toe to toe with what's already been established? And they did that. That was one of the biggest impressive feats that I saw within the game, was that I really loved how, Drax looked, how Gamora looked, how Rocket Raccoon looked, how Groot looked. It was crazy because as I was playing the game, after I beat the game, I was looking online at some of the still pictures from the movie version of the characters. And like one of them, for instance, was Groot. And I had grown so accustomed to loving how Groot looks in the game. I actually prefer how Groot looks in the game more so than the movie version, which is saying a lot because I loved how Groot looked in the films. So, kudos to the team for being able to really, and again, it's not limited to that one skin. Like they have multiple skins for all the heroes that are hidden throughout, which again creates incentive to be able to like explore everywhere on every single level. And if you want, they even have like the Guardians of the Galaxy film versions of the character skins so that you can apply them if you want to. Another thing that is very impressive with this game is the VO, the voice acting itself. When we were talking about the game in detail in a previous episode of Joygasm, that was one of the big things that we focused on, was actually talking about how much heart this game has. And a large part of that has to do with the voice acting within this game, in the sense that they really, you could tell they bonded with these characters. It was a love letter to these characters. I think there was a lot of expectation riding on these actors' shoulders once again, because this franchise has already been established not only in comic book form, but also in movie form. So how do you almost, you don't want to completely reinvent the wheel, but at the same time, you do want to create these characters in kind of a fresh way, just because you're an actor, right? Like you want to be able to put your own little spin on it. Totally understandable. You combine that with the fact that the story itself is also full of heart. The script writing, the dialogue, the banter between the characters, but also the overall story is wonderful. In fact, at the Game Awards recently, this title actually won. It was something like best screenplay or something, or best story. So it's a no-brainer that this game itself has, in my book, one of the most fun, engaging storylines I've played through in some time. And it was one of those types of games where I couldn't put it down.
I know the feeling.
I know indeed. So yeah, I think I've covered just about everything I wanted to say about that. Fantastic story, superb VO, really strong art direction. Guardians of the Galaxy, the game, number 3 for me. Steve, what is your number 2 pick? This is where I'm starting to wonder, what you got? What you
doing over there? So my number 2, Russ, you might be a little surprised, is Halo Infinite.
Well, okay, so I'm not entirely surprised, just because I had a feeling that was either going to be your number 1 or number 2.
So this game got a bit of a rocky start, Russ, because they released the multiplayer, and the multiplayer wasn't all that good. You know what I'm saying, right? It wasn't all that good. We, if everybody wants to find out how we thought about that, that's on a previous podcast not too long ago, and then the history of podcasts there up. But the main thing about Halo is the campaign, Russ.
Have you beaten the campaign, Steve?
No, I'm not.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
No, hey, I am getting towards the end. I'm like underground somewhere. I've not poked my head out and got fresh air in quite some time. I'm fighting a baddie. I can spoil it, Russ, but I'm not gonna. But I believe I am far.
Spoil it like a silent but deadly fart.
I was just gonna say a glass of milk, but you know, whatever, I guess. So anyhow, the game actually ran pretty darn good on the regular Xbox. Just the load times were freaking forever. I'm just saying. So
Steve's all about doing like stress tests on the original Xbox.
I am. Hey, you know what? You heard it here first, Russ.
You did. Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if you did it, but you know, I'm just gonna believe you did. Anyway, so once I got my Series X, of course, it was a lot better. You know, the graphics,
You got yourself a Series X?
Oh, gosh, Ross. Anyhow, so where was I? So the gunplay,
yes,
is absolutely fantastic, and like all like the designs of the guns are cool. I was thinking about this the other day. And many of the other Halo games, like I would choose my favorites like anybody else would choose their favorites. Why are you pinching my fat roll? I'm trying to speak. You're trying to train wreck me here. Golly, I know I have COVID calories over the last 2 years. I still haven't lost.
Trying to derail you, Steve.
It's bad enough of breathing in dust over here. You pinching my extra fat handles. Anyhow,
like my own personal Pillsbury Doughboy
man,
over
like
here.
trying to hold on to this thought really hard. It's getting slippery. So anyhow, in the previous games, I would find guns that I would like, and I would just kind of gravitate towards them like they were my go-to guns. But in this game, yeah, laugh it up, fuzzball.
No,
Keep going.
Sorry, I'm trying not to. Go ahead.
So in this game, I have many favorites of all the guns. There's like a select few that I'm gonna pass on, but like the majority of guns, and this is like a first for Halo, for me anyway, in the entire series. So I love the battle rifle. I love the assault rifle. I love the little commando rifle. I love all like the new electric rifles. I mean, I love the new designs of all like the sniper and whatnot. I love all the new sounds. Mm-hmm. I love the music. I mean, the thing about Halo 2 is that 2 as in like TOO, Russ. The thing about Halo 2 is that like previous Halo games, like 1, 2, and 3, of course, I mean, I'm not a pro gamer, so I would die a lot. Of course, I like to play it on heroic and or legendary if I got a pal, right? So I'm going to be dying a lot. And I'm either going to be dying and laughing as I'm dying because I'm going to try and do like this huge like one-man army assault, like just, you know, suicide style.
Sure.
Or whatever it might be. I might be tactical about it, but I don't want to get angry at the game that I'm playing. And that was the issue with like Halo 4 and Halo 5, because it seemed like if I'm playing on a difficult setting and I'm dying, I'm just going to stop playing after a while because it's not fun. But Halo in its previous generations, they would make you laugh. Like all the enemies would taunt you or mock you in a humorous kind of style. You know, all the little grunts had these original things to say, and it made it funny to keep on continuing the game and trying again and trying again and trying again. And I found like if I had watched an intense show or an intense movie with my wife, it was almost like playing Halo calmed me down in a way because I would laugh more at the game.
Sure.
And I feel like that's just a rich feeling to have when playing a game. That's literally why I play the game. I feel like I want to unplug from like the stress of life or the stress of whatever, and I want to plug into the game, and I want to forget everything that I'm dealing with or thinking about. And that's how I felt with playing Halo Infinite, at least with the campaign. And I will say, too, with the multiplayer is getting better. And like our main concern was like, there's not a big variety of good maps, but they're releasing more and more maps. And I applaud them for that. I mean, 343 has been at it for a while. I'm going to say I've been critical, very critical of, because I want the game to succeed. I want a very good Halo game. And I feel like they've given it to us this time around. So that's off. I applaud 343.
Number 2.
Número dos.
Numero dos. Very nice. Steve,
What you got, Russ? What you got?
my number 2 pick for my favorite games, number 2 for 2021, is Resident Evil Village.
Really, Russ?
It is. In fact, that was actually knocking back and forth between number 1 and number 2. That was where I had my kind of like competition for the top spot. So what's interesting about Resident Evil Village as it applies to me is that I am a newbie when it comes to the Resident Evil franchise. Sure. 2021 was that for a few titles for me in the sense that I had been keeping tabs on a particular series for years and years, whether it was watching you play it or watching friends play something. And I never had a chance to really like get into it and start playing it in earnest. And Resident Evil Village was the first Resident Evil game that I beat. And so it was a lot of fun. It was again, a timing thing where I really felt as though it was the perfect time for me to jump in. Even though technically speaking, I was playing a bit of the Resident Evil 2 remake, which I have not beaten yet. I need to like keep going and finish that one up. But in terms of...
I thought you played the third one. I thought you played and beat the third one.
No, I played... So I bought the third one.
Yes.
And I beat the game demo that they released before the game came out. But I haven't beaten it. I'm purposely not... I don't want to play that until I finish Resident Evil 2 Remake. The exception, though, is in fact... having Resident Evil Village, because this was one that really caught my attention early on when they were, once again, they were showing the game trailers for it. They were showing like a little bit of the gameplay. And I was like, man, this is very different in the sense that this is a first person view in Resident Evil. Not that they have not done that before. They have, right? They have had a first person version within Resident Evil. But what was so neat about this was the fact that, first of all, the game takes place largely outdoors.
That's right.
Most of the Resident Evil titles I have seen takes place indoors. They have like brief moments where you're outdoors, but I mean, let's be real. They were always indoors, and that's okay. It's not a knock against the titles at all. But I thought that, wow, that was really, really neat. Also, the kind of setting that the game takes place in, where it has almost like that Transylvania-esque castle with a lot of the village down below. The fact that a lot of the game takes place in the daytime, that was a huge deal too, because most Resident Evil titles take place at nighttime, or it's like this crazy dark
or
rain cloud,
way over, like overcast or something.
Yeah. But I mean, this was actually like you had your Thule fog in certain parts, and then the fog would burn off, and then you'd have like the sun like full on coming up over the mountain side, and like you got your sunsets and whatnot. On top of that, even the enemy classes, it was not limited to just zombies, but like you actually had lichens, and you had, vampire types, and you had almost like these Frankenstein monster types as well. Like you could tell that they used a lot of the classic Hollywood-esque monsters as like a foundational inspiration point, and then they made like their own kind of versions of these types of creatures and that sort of thing. Lady Dimitrescu was totally captivating as a villain. I think for the longest time we thought that she was going to be the main villain, almost like, if you were playing Resident Evil Nemesis, the Nemesis is obviously like the main baddie. Right. Turns out she's not. So I feel like enough time has passed I can say that.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved how big the world was. It served it wasn't a 100% open world, but it was large enough in the sense where like you really got a sense of how big the world was. Not only that, but the different parts of the world were very thematic, that complemented whoever was kind of like the boss, if you will, of that area, the caretaker or whatever, So there's an awful lot to love. Even the VO is great as well. I loved how they were bringing back a couple of the OG characters of Resident Evil, which, you're very much,
sup.
an expert in that sort of thing.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, overall, really, really love the game, enjoyed the game, beat the game, and I sound like a broken record. I'm also in the midst of a New Game Plus romp through with that as well. So hats off to Capcom. Fantastic game. It was almost my number one pick.
Oh.
And
Is that so, Russ?
it's gonna settle for the silver instead.
The Video Game Olympics podium. Resident Evil has a silver, Russ.
Indeed. From this man, anyway.
Anyway.
You never know. It may get the gold from this judge over here. Not exactly sure, but I have a feeling that might be your number one. Am I right, Steve?
You're right, Russ.
Oh!
So, yeah, it is my numero uno. Been looking forward to that game since we saw it, all the trailers and everything. I was hooked. Yeah, I can remember us talking with Big Baby Moose about it, and that game came up as one of the most anticipated titles, and I'm like, I am in. Don't let me down, Capcom. And so I thought, man, where are they going to go? Because we've done the zombie thing, and I was like burnt out of the zombies. I'm done. I don't want to play anything with zombies anymore, period. I'm done. And so this was like the appropriate right direction for them to go. And I mean, I passed on Resident Evil 6. I passed on I mean, I wasn't even that excited when they made Resident Evil 3 because it was so much like 2. I'm like, okay, guys, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So you brought me over. You sat me down.
Yes.
In front of the demo for your PS5.
Right.
And I didn't want to like quickly get through the demo. I was just looking and marveling at all the textures and like the wood grain or like the individual carpet strands, like in someone's sweater or like the wind blowing through like the window. And I didn't want to leave. And I knew I was scared. I was freaking frightened, but I'm like, this is so beautiful. And it reminded me of Resident Evil 1 when that technology was state of the art. I thought, wow, look at these pre-rendered graphics and everything. And I didn't want to leave. And so now it's today. And they're utilizing all the technology to bring us back into a different mansion, into this different atmosphere. No barely any zombies anyway.
Some, like which is okay.
Which is, absolutely fine. Very few. But the enemies were so cool. The Lycans, the vampires, even with the vampire daughters, splitting off into bats and coming back. I mean, there was so much.
You had the undead that were living in the bowels of the castle.
Yeah. Even the way like the village looked with how cold it was and how run down all the buildings were, like there wasn't really any place to hide. Even the wood was rotten.
Yeah.
The game has some cliches, like, which like the ton of Resident Evils do. I'm like, I knew I was going to fight a water creature at some point.
Sure. Which honestly, like to me, I kind of enjoy that type of predictability where like you're going around, you're almost hoping, you're like,
right.
I'm sure I'm going to fight one. And honestly, I kind of hope I do.
But with all the customization of the guns and stuff, and you were finding all different things to sell. I mean, even like the morbidly obese kind of seller guy was always somewhere in a tractor. For some reason, the Lycans didn't want to touch him. Even he had charm to him.
Oh, sure.
And that was like the game. I still want to play through like Far Cry 6 all over again, but this game I've been thinking about since early this year.
I have as well.
About New Game Plus, but I've been holding off until I got the next system so that I could play all over again in this beautiful world. Because I played through the game with the base Xbox and loved it. Yeah. And so I want to play it through again with the new Xbox.
You're going to love it.
And, continue upgrading my weapons. Plus, also, I will say, having your spouse play with you during the game and getting just as much into the story as you do, that is so rewarding because oftentimes it's just me. I'm just me in front of the Xbox playing the game, having your spouse there and getting into the story. I mean, we were talking about it like off and on work. I mean, throughout the day, I can't wait to come home. Let's play more Resident Evil. Let's eat dinner while we're playing it.
That's like the dream come true when you have your spouse who's not a gamer all of a sudden get into it. Well, and I'm sure it speaks to back when we were teenagers and you'd be playing the game on the couch. Not that I was your spouse as a teenager, but having
Awkward.
it's almost Resident Evil is so much more fun when you do in fact have that co-pilot who's just sitting there. They're not playing the game,
Someone
but
to
they're
yell with.
reacting. Yeah. Someone to yell with, someone to have a good time with, someone to strategize with. Like, I remember there were certain times when you'd be playing the game and I would spot something that you would miss, and then we're trying to collectively make our way through, even though you're the one who's doing all the heavy lifting. It's just fun. It's one of those games where it reminds me of like if you're watching a horror movie, right? Like it's more fun to watch it with a person because then you get to like scream together and everything else.
Yeah. You screamed right in my ear. Shut up.
Yeah.
But no, anyway, just everything they did with the game was absolutely wonderful, and it was beautiful. And in a way, it makes me want the game market to slow down a little bit so that I have enough time to play through again, having no distractions, New Game Plus, just to appreciate it that much more.
Yeah.
And playing this game makes me want to go back and buy the previous game to play it too. So, I mean, it did its job and then some. So, awesome.
Fantastic.
Job, Capcom, yeah.
Wow. Well, my number one, my favorite game of 2021 is Forza Horizon 5.
Oh, snap. Have you beat that one?
I have not. I have actually been, and this is kind of par for the course. The Forza games are so big that I have never actually beaten a single one. Like I've put a tremendous amount of hours into each title.
You didn't beat 3?
No. And there's still stuff that's like out there that I still got to do. I've never seen the developer credits. Like but that is one of the strengths to the game, is that the game is so big and there's so much to do. They have all these different events and whatnot, and you never get tired of playing it. Like the only reason why I would stop playing a particular Forza title is because the new one comes out. And so then I want to check that one out as well. So I think for me, Forza Horizon 5 represents a number of different things. First of all, it represents a true benchmark in next-gen experience. So whether it's the photogrammetry that they used as a technique for the sheer open world, with like all the boulders and the rock faces and the trees and the buildings, all different things. It has that next gen polish that we were looking for. And we would see, like there would be like a scattering throughout the year, very few titles where all of a sudden, like you could tell, such as pretty much like the ones that are in our lists that we've been talking about during the show. But those were kind of more the exception. Like you had a fair amount of games coming out that really were not taking advantage of what all you could do, such as ray tracing, for example. And I feel as though Forza Horizon 5 was able to really demonstrate what the Xbox Series X is capable of doing. And not only that, the types of options that are available, whether like if you want to have like the crazy 60 frames per second driving experience, or if you wanted a 30 frames per second driving experience with even more heightened graphics fidelity, you could do that.
Which mode did you keep it on, Russ?
I've been keeping it on 30 frames per second. I actually really prefer the 30 frames per second experience. But having said that, it's actually kind of difficult because honestly, I like them both. But for me, the 30 frames per second is just kind of more my speed, I guess.
Well, the 30 frame, I actually keep mine on the same, because with the 30 frames per second, you could see all the textures and like all the improvements of the game. It feels more like a next gen game. The 60 frames a second obviously plays a lot smoother, but it doesn't exactly feel like you can't see all the capabilities the system is able to do. It just feels like it's playing that version of the Xbox One very good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was playing the 30 frames, the quality mode.
Quality mode versus performance mode. Right. Yeah. And if you, again, just kind of recapping a bit from when we were reviewing the game. So the Forza series has always done, especially the Horizon series, has always done a bang up job when it comes to representing a specific region or country or culture. That was one of the big takeaways I've had from many of their games. And this is no exception. With us being able to go into Mexico, you get this kind of utopian glimpse of like an idealized world of the culture of Mexico, the different locales and vistas that kind of make up the landscape, so to speak.
Sure.
I really enjoy kind of that energized optimism, really, that you feel. And it's not limited to just Forza Horizon 5, but it's been in 3 and 4 as well. And there's this exuberant feeling of loving getting behind the wheel and going for a drive. And I feel as though Playground Games has really they've maintained the eye of the tiger in terms of how do we continue to iterate on this and finesse what is already a fantastic game. And not only that, but like you're looking at it and there are very few bugs that I've run into. I think that's one of the ongoing challenges for both the PS5 and Xbox Series X next gen titles is I've noticed more often than not, there are certain bugs, some of which are like show-stopping, like crashes. They'll just completely freeze your game up and you have to restart your system, or it bounces you back to the dashboard UI of the system. Yeah. And you're thinking, my goodness, like, well, why didn't they catch that? And so, you know, not to say that Forza Horizon 5 is exempt from that. I have had that happen maybe twice, but that's after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of play. So again, I tip my hat to them in terms of coming up with and producing a fully fledged game that comes on Xbox Game Pass. I can't wait to see what kind of DLC they decide to come up with, because I've really enjoyed their Hot Wheels as well as their Lego drops in the past. And I really have a hard time. I mean, I was going to say, I really have a hard time thinking of any kind of criticisms I have toward the game. Really, the one little gripe I have, and it's such a little dinky nitpick considering it's a racing game, but honestly, I would just like to have more variety with customizing your character, because a lot of the options in there, I'm like, I just don't dress that way. Or I don't. I literally have no hair,
I don't look that way.
But that notwithstanding, it is an absolute treasure of a game to be able to play. And so that is in fact my favorite game of 2021. Excellent work.
Okay, Russ.
That wraps up this episode of Joygasm. We thank you for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to check out patreon.com/Joygasm, where you can enjoy exclusive perks and early access to the show. Not to mention, it financially helps us continue doing the show. Also, make sure you slap that subscribe button and poke that notification bell. That way you will not miss a single episode of Joygasm, which drops once a week, every week. And while you're at it, you can do a search for @JoygasmTV on your favorite social media platform of choice. We're on just about all of them. And last but not least, do a search for Joygasm TV on Twitch to see us stream our gaming adventures live every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. We are going to be back here all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for you next week when we go over our top 5 movies of 2021. So we can't wait to see you then.